Hello guys, so today in this video we will be covering what makes actually a good chunk of information and how to properly structure your vector store or knowledge base in order for the information to be retrieved with utmost precision. So on the first glance in the left panel you can see the example what would make a bad or poor chunk of information and what would make an ideal or rich chunk of information. So if you compare these two on the first glance you can see that this chunk of information is a plain text I extracted from the previous article which ends cut in the middle of a sentence, so that's the first difference. But if you compare it with the second chunk you can see that the second ideal rich chunk of information is structured in a clean JSON format, and also it's divided between searchable fields and metadata fields. And also if you take the JSON fields text values, the text values themselves are formatted in Markdown syntax. And if you consider the logical meaning of the text itself, as I just said, the first bad poor chunk of information is cut in the middle of the sentence because of poor chunking strategy, and the next ideal rich chunk of information has whole atomic values and logical meanings of text altogether in their own fields. So the entire text from the article, from the corresponding article and information that belong together sits actually in their own atomic field in the JSON in the text content. Also, as you can see, the ideal rich chunk of information would have not only divided fields between searchable fields and metadata fields, but it has tons of fields that enable the first vector database to search and retrieve the information properly because of it has text summaries, it has headers of the chunks, it has optimal keywords, but also it enables the vector search and the knowledge base to be filtered in ideal way, just like a SQL database would, via where clause, with the fields like publish date, author, keywords, indexes, and also it has the context continuity between the previous chunk and the next chunk. Plus you know from which place it originated, meaning from not only which chunk but also from which URL. So let's compare the individual features or aspects what differentiates a bad chunk of information, which is created by naive chunking approach, between a good chunk of information, which is the production-ready, enterprise-grade approach. So first one would be the structure. As I said, bad poor chunk of information has flat and messy structure. It's simple text field mixed with minimal metadata. No proper structure, hard for the LM to differentiate important information and navigate the structure of the text properly. So it's a single block of plain text that AI can't tell what's the header, what are the regular information, and it just can't tell how it's structured and navigate it properly during the LLM generation phase. Instead, the ideal rich chunk of information has hierarchical structure like a JSON structure and strict separation between what's searchable fields for the vector database and what are the metadata fields that can be used for later vector search filtering. So good chunk of information preserves the original document or URL structure and converts it properly into LLM readable format like JSON, Markdown, and as I said, it preserves Markdown, headers, bolding, lists, and converts it properly into corresponding elements. As you can see over here, we have Markdown headers, headline 1, that's this hashtag, we have bolding, for example, and other Markdown elements, and it's easier for the LLM to navigate it later. Very important thing is data purity as well. As you can see, bad or poor chunk of information is polluted with unnecessary and not properly converted HTML boilerplate, like sign up, sign in, share, buttons, cookies, headers, footers, and so on. So it contains the UI noise from the original page or document. And as I said, unnecessary HTML tags. But instead, a good chunk of information is clean and it has only the pure information and all non-content elements are stripped out from it. We've already covered the logical meaning, that bad chunk of information is fragmented and it often cuts off mid-sentence, like we can see over here, for example, and or method due to the arbitrary fixed token limits. But instead, good chunk of information is complete and has the logical information that belong together and they fit together in one specific field or chunk. And also, it captures a self-contained logical concept or paragraph from start to finish. Also, good chunk of information has very strong filtering potential. So in our case, if we would like to, for example, filter out chunks that do not apply for specific date range, we would utilize this publish date integer field. And for example, if we were to filter only records in 2025 in August in specific date, we would create a filter during the metadata searching for the filtering of the knowledge base, and then we would input the filter into the knowledge base retrieval phase, and we would only retrieve those chunks that apply for our filtering, right? And one of the most important things is the actual context continuity, as we briefly already mentioned. Bad chunks of information have no awareness which chunks came before them, or what chunks of information are gonna come after them, or the overall picture, how it basically plugs in into the overall context of the page or document. So good chunks of information include metadata with, for example, fields like source page summaries or overlap summaries to maintain the flow and give the LLM a bigger picture to reconstruct the original page and its meaning. As you can see in the example here, we have in the metadata field source page summary and overlap summary, and it basically gives the LLM understanding when generating the answer how everything connects and plugs together, and it can generate best big picture answer. So, hopefully by now you have basic understanding how to properly structure your knowledge base and how to tailor ideal rich chunks of information. But the question remains, right? How do you extract and get dozens of thousands of messy URLs, documents from your clients, and tailor and fill in and upload that into the knowledge base, right? In the next videos, I will show you how to properly use and utilize chunking strategies that we use in our agency in order to get these ideal rich chunks of data from the unstructured data from the web or documents. Then, in the immediate videos after that, I will show you how in a couple of clicks you can get the unstructured data from the web or documents, and you can fill in or upload it in arbitrary knowledge base of your choice.